Coming up, it was their first massive hit in America. It kicked open the door across the globe, let people know that this band was here to stay. It actually led to them being one of the biggest groups of the last half of the 80s. This top 5 hit, it ruled MTV with its innovative music video that won many awards, and they made it for just $200. $200. Up next, the co-founder and co-writer of this legendary band tells the story of creating this song with their now deceased singer. Great interview coming up. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you were raised on radio, you're going to dig this channel. Make sure to subscribe right now. Below, hit the red button, click the bell, all that good stuff. That way you don't miss out on any of our content. We got interviews coming out all the time. Also, check out our Patreon, where you can get full interviews, and also check out our Vintage Years collection. So I'm excited to bring you another episode from our series Revelations. It's where featured artists go really deep to their greatest songs and their greatest albums. I'm honored to bring you another episode of this with Andrew Farris, a legendary co-writer of INXS's biggest hits with lead singer Michael Hutchence. You know, before INXS stormed the world with the blockbuster album Kick, their breakthrough on the US charts was What You Need. It hit number 5 on the Hot 100 and number 3 on the rock charts. So coming up, Andrew gives us the goods on birthing this song with Michael Hutchence. I want to get right into it. This is a great interview. Andrew is always entertaining. As we go into this, I want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, my favorite frames ever. Go design your own pair with digital blue light protection at zenni.com, or even easier, ordering them with the brand new app. That gives you the latest deals, and it's actually easy to shop from. Check it out today. Here's Andrew. But jumping into 85, Listen Like Thieves, Chris Thomas produced there. That went to number 1 in Australia and number 11 in the US. That was a breakthrough, that album, especially here in America. What You Need was a massive song, and that was the lead single in Australia and New Zealand, but this time was the lead single in US and Europe. It was kind of almost like the setup track for What You Need. Although, this time is one of my favorite INXS songs ever. I love that. You wrote that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I wrote that one on my own, and you know, I always have been able to write songs on my own, but I like writing with other people because I think you get, you know, like the great songwriting partnerships, something really magical happens when you share your art with somebody else. Something just clicks, you know, and you get this beautiful duality in the sound of the writing where you can tell that there's something else going on the whole time in it. And have someone pull you up and say, I think that sucks, or I think that's great if you think it sucks, you know, and that's important too. You know, you got to kind of reality check with it. That's important. But What You Need was a very special moment because we tracked, including this time and all the rest of Listen Like Thieves, we'd virtually finished the album with Chris Thomas. And it was exciting because we knew we had a good album. And Chris came out one day after we'd all had dinner, at the end of the part of one of the sessions when we were recording Listen Like Thieves. He said, you've got a very good album here. I like it. He goes, but I think you need one more song, you know? And we looked at each other and we're like, Michael and I were like, uh-oh. And then we're like, what do you mean? He goes, well, you know, just think you need something else, you know? You've got a great album, but it's just something else you need, you know? So he goes, I tell you what, you two, he says to me and Michael, you go in that room, okay, we're all going to come back here about this time tomorrow and we want to hear a great song. And they all left. I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, great, you know? You know, oh, no pressure, you know? No, you know? But that, talking about pressure, because this will go somewhere what I'm going to say, it was good for us because, and it was my brother Tim who said, you know what, I've heard this riff thing that Andrew's got, you know, dun 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 and a dun 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 dun, and that groove, dum 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 dum. That he goes, he's got a piece of music with that stuff all over it. Why don't you start there? And so we did. And that's what we worked off that groove. And I remember working on the groove originally with Michael, actually, the two of us. And I'm going to contradict what I said before. We actually worked up that groove together, which we didn't normally do. And that funky groove, that kind of smooth, loopy kind of groove. Not many people were doing that in 1985, I got to tell you. There wasn't a lot of that going on, and at least not that we heard. And that was the other thing that we wanted to do, was to mix rock, kind of like Walk This Way, the way that, Aerosmith did it with Run DMC. It's kind of what we were trying to do then, was that idea of having the big slamming guitars. With a funky groove, so it just won't leave you alone. You're like, yep, there it is. It's gonna knock on your door. And that was where we went with the song. And yeah, we had a top 5 hit, I think, in the US with it. It went massive all around the world. And the video we shot for it's got a kind of funny story, if I can just say this, is that we were trying to think of a different video idea. So Richard Lowenstein came out with this idea, which was absolutely brilliant, and of shooting, and I'll come to this in a minute. Mick Jagger called Michael and said, I just watched your video for What You Need. He goes, how did you make that video? Because the technology didn't exist with the computers back then, right? There was no such technology. And then Michael said, you really want to know? And he's like, yeah, man, I want to know. How did you make the video, And it was because... what we did was we shot it on a motor drive, on a stills camera, right? And then with a 16mm film camera running in the background, which was the main part of the video, but the still motor drive section, it was then the negatives were hand colored and then sequenced together, right? And it cost we took it down to what we call a local chemist in Australia, or drugstore or whatever. And they used to develop your photographs, right? So we made our video for like $200. And everyone's spending $500,000 on a video. We're like, nah, $200. There's your video, When you gotta walk on that line. Yeah, that's a funny thing. It was a massive video, And I think we're up for an MTV award, which we got later on for Kick. But the best thing about this experience, I was saying about writing What You Need, and that pressure that Chris Thomas put Michael and I under, was very good for us, because when we had a top 5 hit like that around the world, and it went really big, went huge, is that I remember our manager at the time, Chris Murphy, called me at home and he said, aren't you excited that, your song's gone number 1 all over the place and it's top 5 wherever, And I said, yeah, but there was something strange about it that bothered me, and I couldn't think about what it was. And I said, yeah, that's great. And I hung up the phone. And then I remember walking around about an hour later, and I realized what was bothering me about it was I thought, okay, when we go to write the next bunch of songs, is that the pressure we just put ourselves under? In other words, is that the best thing we're ever going to write? And that'll be what we did, and that was the end of our career. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. And I'm sure that's been through other people's minds before in their careers, where you go, what's next? And I was weird, because I called Michael up and I said, how are you feeling about this? And he said, and he said exactly what I just said to you then. And I said, I know, I'm feeling exactly the same way. It's really weird. I'm very uncomfortable about it, whereas I should be really excited about it, And I said, we have to kick some ass when we, literally when we go to write the next bunch of songs. And he said, I know, this is really putting us into a lot of pressure. And I said, yeah, man, it sure is. And so when Kick rolled around, and I didn't mean to segue into this unless you don't want to, but when Kick rolled around, that's where we set ourselves up right from the beginning, was let's approach it like What You Need. Let's go into this thing. And just every single song could be a single, like everything that we do and write. Yeah, everything.
As we move on from What You Need, I think it's cool that it was called Funk Song Number 13 is what I read. Is that right?
It was something either 13 or 9. I can't remember anymore. We gave them different numbers, just, yeah, number 9 or number 13 or whatever it was, We don't know what it's called yet, but that's what we're going to call it. Yeah, so.
Well, what do you remember about recording it? Because that's such a funky song, like you said, the guitar with again, your signature guitar line that you always come up with. It's so memorable.
Yeah.
And Michael, of course, bringing the vocal that he brings to that. Yeah. It's just like burning the place down, man.
Yeah, no, Michael's vocal was killer too. And the lyric is so deceptively simple, but what a great message. Forget about your troubles in life, Don't you know life's not easy? Don't you know it's not easy? So what you need is to have a great time. This is what you need, I'll give you what you need. What's so complicated,
I mean, I watch interviews with you guys. I mean, with YouTube, you can find anything. But what's cool is these interviews with the two of you, you could see, like you talked about, your engineer mind. You can see it's working with the way you're talking about music and the way he's talking about music. And of course, we all know those people, they're just blessed with charisma. I mean, Michael just had it.
I agree.
You can't put your finger on it. He just has that. And that's what's great is that partnership. And it's a partnership that, to me, you guys really were like one of the Lennon McCartneys of my time, because that songwriting partnership brought so many hits, so many songs that, and I know I speak for a lot of people here, that means so much. It's funny because we had this channel up and going for a while, and people are always saying, when are you going to do something on INXS? Because it's such a part of not only your childhood, but teenage years. That's what's cool about a band. When a certain band and you find them and you grow and the band you grow up with that band. From the time that you're 8 or 9 years old to the point where you're in your 20s or 30s. And it's cool because these songs are the checkpoints of the things that happen in your life. So they feel like a friend.
That's right. Yeah. That's exactly right. Same for me.
Yeah, and to be able to be that for other people is pretty cool. Band name, there's always been the urban legend about a member of Midnight Oil had come up with that. So set the record straight. What's the true story on that one?
With the name of the band,
with INXS, yeah, because you guys were called the Vegetables for a while, right?
Yeah, yeah, and we wrote a song called "We Are the Vegetables." That kind of silly song, but anyway, but it was really we were doing Midnight Oil had kind of already broken pretty big. And they liked us, and they put us on the bill with them. And so we would go around playing all these pretty rough pubs, actually, with Midnight Oil. I won't pull any punches here. It was a tough environment in those years. Like AC/DC came out of that, and you did have to be a bit gritty to get it through all that. It wasn't the teeny pop thing. It wasn't that at all. It was kind of rough, And then amongst all that, the road crews were awesome, as they always have been. But the guys who, do the hard labor when you're not playing or before you play or whatever. And it was one of the road crew guys from the Oils that have been working for them goes, I have this idea for a name of a band. We're like, that's very cool. We all looked at each other and it was like, and also you got to imagine, you talked about Michael and his natural charisma, and I agreed totally with that. But also for Michael, the name of our band at that point was the Farris Brothers, And I think for Michael, he was like the witch, as far as, it's not about him, right? Yeah. So, and I think so we all thought about it, went, And also the brothers thing, I guess back then, late 70s, you might have had the Doobie Brothers or the Johnson Brothers or whoever the brothers were back then. But, Everly Brothers. By that time, the brothers thing wasn't cool, really, going into the early 80s. Can we just not do the brothers thing, please?
Yeah.
It's come back around again. It's cool again now. It wasn't back then, but anyway, and I'm glad it's cool again. What's wrong with brothers anyway, right? Sisters. Hey, anyway, so Yeah, look, I think how it really came together there was just we liked the name and it just suited us. Instantly, we just attached ourselves to it. It attached ourselves to us, and it was like another jigsaw piece that fell into place for us, you know? And we became that thing, whatever that is, you know? But when you were asking me more, making the observation before about my more kind of, I suppose, engineering technical mind about things, and then with Michael's just, you know, oozing his charismatic sort of personality, nature, talent, you know, that's where we were like the odd couple in that sense. You know, we weren't similar people competing on the same level. I have a sense of humor about charisma. I think I'm fantastically charismatic, but but you know, but not in the way he was, you know. And so I would try to, you know, put my charisma in one area and let him do his thing. And many years later, we actually talked about that, really right towards the end of his life. It was good. You know, he apologized to me, actually. And he said, you know, to be honest with you, and really after kind of Listen Like Thieves and after the success of Kick and all that stuff we went on, you know, and X and all that period, I don't care what anyone says, that kind of fame and success, it messes with your head, you know. It doesn't matter who you are, you know. Anyone that says it doesn't, I don't believe them. Anyway, so...
Well, there's a front man in a band, and then there's a front man in a band. And the thing is that Michael was, I mean, he's Jim Morrison from my generation.
Right.
I could name 50 bands from the 80s that were huge bands and had big songs. They had great singers and everything, but they weren't Michael Hutchence. I mean, this is a guy that not only had the voice and the look, but like you said, demigod, but he was the Jim Morrison of the 80s. And I hate even saying Jim Morrison because he was his own person. He was something completely different.
I got a connection with that, a real one as well, where not so much with Jim Morrison, but INXS, we played a show in Los Angeles called Rock and Roll Tonight. And the other acts on were Eric Clapton and Simple Minds. And it was pretty nerve-wracking for us because this was our first public performance on US television, you know, and it was really early when we first turned up. And we played well. We were a little too enthusiastic, I think, when I look back on it, but that was the way it was anyway. But at the end of the performance we did, and we played well, I think, and then Ray Manzarek came backstage, right? And he said, I was sitting at home and I saw you guys come on the television. And I got to tell you, I've never seen anyone besides your lead singer that reminded me so much of Jim. That's what he said to me. Come on, baby, light my fire. And I said, well, I'm staying there gobsmacked because Ray Manzarek's talking to me at all, right? You know? And then I said, well, if you want to talk to Michael, he's right over there, you know? So he said, yeah, man. He walked over and I was like, holy shit, that's Ray Manzarek, you know, when he walks over, you know, when he walks over the other side of the room. You know, it was, I really felt that, well, first of all, television in the US is very important for our band. I think without that exposure that we'd had on TV and MTV and that, I think radio never really knew what to make of our band really until later on.
This is a song that's been in pop culture for a long time. Weird Al at the time covered it in his Polka Party song. At that point, if Weird Al covers you, like it's over.
Yeah, the stamp of parody.
What did you think about that? Were you aware at the time that he'd done that?
No, I wasn't actually, but I feel I know what you mean when you reach that level, and I have to say that's something in life I didn't see coming with all of this, you know, success we were chasing and lucky to have achieved, you know, as a group of people. What I didn't see coming was your enter into culture in people's lives. When you start this thing, you know, if you're a songwriter, an entertainer, or a musician or whatever, you know, it can start off in all kinds of ways. It can be just, you know, passion. You love music. You like writing. You like money. Or I don't know, whatever it is you're looking for in your life, you know, to put the pieces together that you're looking for. But what you don't see coming, if you really get what you want, and you get more successful and you get famous is you enter into culture. People go, well, you're a part of my life, or your music is, and you're branded like that as you go into it. And that's a strange thing, as I've gotten older, I actually get quite emotional about it. That's the part of it that I most appreciate, is that people have taken you into their home, their heart, their mind, and appreciated your art or your work or your thoughts or your thinking. And that's quite an emotional subject for me, because I don't take that stuff lightly. That's not an ego thing at all. That's a whole other deal.
When it enters into movies and TV shows and video games, I mean, that's like taking something that's already a big part of culture, music, and then putting it with another big part of culture, which is movies or video games. And it's like a double whammy for you, because it also introduces you to a new generation. I mean, I remember hearing this on Miami Vice as a kid, because I love the show and I love the band, and the two come together.
You guys got a favorite TV soundtrack you want to hear? That's all music is these days.
But then like Coronation Street, the British drama, and then movies, it was in Monster. And Hot Tub Time Machine. Take Me Home Tonight.
Got enough? What?
What did you think when you heard some of those uses?
Well, I liked Hot Tub Time Machine. It was a funny movie for a start. Like there's a lot of things I think about in the passage of time, and the tyranny of time has gone by and will continue to go by. Sometimes I think I get a little sad when I think about Michael's, demise and all of that. And I think, it's a shame he couldn't see some of the lighter side of life with some of the things we've, you know what I mean? Like, the period that he passed away, and for him was so personally tumultuous and rigorously emotional as a person, and difficult, that he was facing his own demons or whatever. But there's another side to it all that has been a wonderful, fantastic, happy, beyond belief, enjoyable experience.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Leave us a comment about INXS and this amazing song from '86. What are your thoughts and memories of the song? What other INXS songs should we cover here? I covered a lot of ground with Andrew. I've interviewed him a couple times. Let us know below. I know a lot of people have asked for Don't Change, and we did cover that one. So check us out on Patreon. Actually, the most important thing you can do is subscribe. We would love to have you as part of our community here. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.